Chairman. We all believe it's unfortunate that we need to be here, and nobody thought in 2024 we would be dealing with this immense spike in anti-Semitism in our country, but it is so critical that we are here together as Republicans and Democrats trying to find the best solutions to stop this. I would like to thank our witnesses for being here. Certainly, Ms. Talia Dror, thank you. You're a student in New York State. I represent New York State, so I want to thank you for being here, not only once, but twice, because that takes tremendous amount of courage for you to come here. And I congratulate you on your graduation, and I'm sorry that you had to miss the ceremony. Since the horrific attacks on October 7th of last year by Hamas on Israel, the ugly face of anti-Semitism has showed on college campuses across the country. Instead of preparing our young people for life and getting them ready to be productive members of a civilized society, campuses have turned into indoctrination centers of hate. It seems to be getting worse to me. Maybe it's because I'm in New York City. And in the news, sadly, we've seen anti-Semites boldly flying the flags of Hamas, of Hezbollah, terrorist organizations. In my city, we've also seen a terrible display of a sign saying "Long live October 7th" at a memorial that was dedicated to the victims of the Nova Music Festival. We've seen vandalism of homes of the Jewish board members of the Brooklyn Museum. And we've also seen, as you mentioned, Mr. Deutsch, the bullying of Zionists or pro-Israel individuals on the subway system, completely unacceptable. It starts with education, it starts with the classroom. I think we need to work together. But I have introduced two bills I just want to mention briefly. I have HR 7231, which is the Campus Act, and this legislation would prohibit universities that have been found to promote anti-Semitic activities or allow them, or that are protecting anti-Semitic faculty from receiving federal funding. I think it's a good bill. I think it's something that would really maybe make a difference in pushing these university presidents to hold faculty or these student organizations accountable. Professor, I know you're also from New York City. I would love to hear your view if you support a measure like that and if you think it would be effective.
Well, to be honest, being a professor, I cannot comment on something I don't know all the details of. But as a fellow New Yorker, we have to remember anti-Jewish crime is the #1 hate crime in New York City for the past 7 years in a row. This is a spike, but this is not new. And this has been under the current Mayor Eric Adams' administration, and it has been under the previous administrations. The biggest Jewish population of the US is in New York City, and nothing has been done.
It's getting worse. It's getting worse.
Unfortunately, hopefully this will stop it, but yeah.
Doctor, I would like to ask you, I have another bill, HR 7232, No Visas for Anti-Semitic Students Act, that would revoke the visa of foreign students in the United States who are members of these organizations and participating in this activity. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, our view is that there are 4 grounds of inadmissibility that have been triggered in some cases. Right? So DHS already has this authority to look at these protests and try to understand which of the students have espoused support or given support for terrorism, which of the students have committed crimes involving moral turpitude, any who lied in their visa application. And so I applaud your leadership from Congress, but I think the administration could take these actions itself if it wanted to.
Well, perhaps this legislation would give them a little more teeth to do it. And Ms. Dror, would you agree with something like that? You think that we should be stripping visas from, whether it's my bill or whether it's the administration doing it, should we be stripping visas from foreign students who are committing anti-Semitic activity on our campuses?
Absolutely. The leader of the Coalition for Mutual Liberation, Cornell's program, or Cornell's organization, is on a student visa. He should get that student visa revoked yesterday.
It's a perfect example, Doctor. It's obviously not happening at the administration level. Hopefully we can push them with new legislation. Mr. Deutsch, you're obviously a subject matter expert on these issues as a member of Congress formerly. We'd love to talk to you about education. What can we do more to educate young people about the Holocaust, about the history of Israel? We have a Jewish student here who was called a Nazi by a fellow student. It's outrageous, simply because she supports Israel. Social media misinformation. These students that are doing this, they're actually proud to have the endorsement of Hamas and Iran. What can we do to educate young people, both at the state level and the national level?
I can answer that in 10 seconds. It's good to see you again, Congresswoman. Look, you touched on each of the key pieces. One, on social media, it is absolutely true that the majority of young people now get their news in 10-second, 6-second videos on TikTok and on Instagram. We have to make sure that the social media companies, that these platforms uphold their own rules, and then Congress is taking a hard look at that as well to make sure that they are, and other steps that can be taken. In the K-12 space, we've got to be sure that as we see the explosion in some parts of the country of curricula that not only don't accurately teach history, but specifically try to exclude Jews and the teaching of anti-Semitism and the Holocaust, that we go the other way, that we make sure it's not just the Holocaust that we're studying, but the contributions of Jewish Americans to our country, that Jewish American Heritage Month is actually observed around the country within our businesses and in our local governments and every place where we have an opportunity to help educate people. That's another way. And on college campuses, we have an obligation to make sure that everyone on a college campus, including the residential advisors, including the members of the administration, not just the administration and his or her team, but everyone in the university has a chance to learn, again, yes, about the Holocaust, but also about the history of anti-Semitism, the history of the Jewish people. And frankly, it's important for everyone to understand the history of Israel so that these outrageous claims about Israel being a white settler colonialist enterprise, instead they'll actually learn that Israel is the homeland for the Jewish people with 3,000 years of history of Jews being connected to that land, that the state of Israel not only is not a white settler colonialist enterprise, but that the majority of Israelis are actually people of color. There's an enormous amount of education that's required. AJC, other groups play a role there. Our educators play a key role there. And I applaud you for raising it. It is the most important thing that we can do long-term to make sure that people understand the facts and so we can all push back against the kind of anti-Jewish hatred that we've seen.
May I just add that the majority of U.S. states do not require schools to teach about the Holocaust. Only 20 states have rules that you must teach about the Holocaust. 3 more have recommendations, and the rest nothing. So as a professor, at the point when I get my students to come to class, many of them, maybe a majority of them, have never taken a class about the Holocaust. So they go to TikTok.
Thank you for your insight and ideas.